I was just trolling him a little bit, right? So I put something up and he's like, hey man, do you ever do any fact checking or do you ever do any kind of research? And I'm like, bro, this is what I do. The only time I get interested in politics is when it starts hurting me personally and my finances. Kamala talking about building 3 million homes is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
She's going to give everybody 25,000. That should.
That's even worse. Right? That'll crash the housing market.
I am happy.
What are we reporting on today, Dave?
We will report on all sorts of stuff. You were very impressed by my teleprompter, which I do not use for the interviews themselves. This is just just us,
you and your followers,
and the team here.
Big fan, by the way, of what you're doing and getting the word out and having people, have other viewpoints and being courageous in the marketplace. I was just telling you, I left Dubai in the UAE, and you think, because of what we're told by CNN and even Fox, that they don't have no freedoms over there. They have so many freedoms there that we don't have here, that we're losing, that I was just really excited to be here and see if we could revive the nation.
Let's see if we can do it. And likewise, I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm excited, I said this here at Preserve, just to not have to do total politics today, because I really do like talking about business and success. I've had a pretty good track record on some things. Maybe you can point me in the right direction on some upcoming things. But why don't we start, because you are in the midst of a little
Well, let me just say on the politics thing, right? The only time I get interested in politics is when it starts hurting me personally and my finances. And that's why I have become very political in the last couple of years, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 3.5 years exactly.
You're probably not the only one like that in your world, right? I would imagine you now see all these tech guys and VC guys that were very apolitical, leaned a little left, and they're all kind of breaking towards Trump. So there really has been a shift in that sense.
Yeah, because it's starting to affect my finances, right? We were in New York City. We were actually looking at buying $500 million worth of real estate in New York City in February when they put the judgment on Trump. And we were flying back from, I think I was in Colorado, flying back to Miami. And my wife's like, you need to start a GoFundMe account for Donald Trump. And I'm like, no, I need to pull out of all these New York deals. You start the GoFundMe account. She did. And we pulled out of those deals about $500 million, have since placed it in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, just because of that judgment. Now you can see today what they're doing with the mayor. They eat their own.
Yeah. So you're a little north of me in Miami, and this place is blowing. Well, let's do the political part for a little bit before we get into your current Twitter fight, which is super interesting. You're here in Miami. You're clearly bringing business down here. Everyone is bringing business down here. It seems to me Miami and Florida in general is doing everything right. Is that pretty much fair to say?
I don't know if they're
not just Miami. I mean, Fort Lauderdale, the whole state seems to be doing it right.
I take the view that we're not doing everything right. They're doing everything wrong. So we left California 13 years ago, and this was before it was popular to come here. I wasn't thinking about Florida. I just sold my house in LA because they had raised taxes from 10 to 13.3. Yeah. It was a 33% increase. And I said, man, I'm leaving. They're like, over 3 points? I'm like, it's not 3 points, dude. It's 33%. Mm-hmm. And the roads aren't better. Schools aren't better. The hospitals aren't better. Most of this money's going to crazy stuff that I don't want to support. This 13, 14 years ago,
so
right?
You were really in on seeing that early.
Oh, yeah. I saw it way early. Yeah. And I told my wife, I said, they're not going to stop here. It will continue. Well, in 13 years, man, California is just degraded. Now this thing has started. They say it all starts in California. Went to Illinois. Now it went to New York City, New Jersey. All that's happening. And I think that while Florida may be doing some things right, the reality is these cities are just making terrible decisions, affecting family values, property values, businesses, and be able to invest in my business, and it's pushing people down here.
Do you think they realize it and or care? So you certainly were not the only person once they had that judgment on Trump that were like, okay, I'm done doing business here. Mr. Wonderful has been talking about it quite a bit, and plenty of other people. Do you think they even care or realize, or when Gavin Newsom publicly celebrates, when Elon's like, okay, I'm taking Twitter out of San Francisco, it's like, come on, man.
I think they're going to start caring when they see their revenues. Like just the one decision I made cost that state $10 million a year in property taxes. If you look at the 25,000 people that have left the state, that's probably costing them $3 to $5 billion a year in tax, income tax revenue. So if people keep voting with their feet, there'll be a moment where New York City and California and all that comes back, because somebody will get in there and be a new sheriff. But It's going to take a lot of fed up people, man.
Do you want to be one of those people? Like when it hits whatever that rock bottom is, nobody knows what that rock bottom is.
Yeah, dude. Yes, I want to go in there and consume, like, those are moments.
Yeah.
So like I still shop those markets to see where they're at. Like we were in California last week trying to go back and enter that market because they're phenomenal markets. New York City is a phenomenal city. Don't confuse it with the politics. As a real estate investment city, it's phenomenal, worldwide phenomenal. We were in the UAE. I'm looking at entering there at some point. It's too hot right now, but at some point they'll overbuild it. It'll correct. We'll go in there and be robber barons.
What do you make of the fact that in New York City, in Los Angeles right now, despite the amount of people that are leaving, that homes, condos, et cetera, still are crazily expensive?
Well, that's what makes it a great real estate market. The barriers to entry, you can't build there, you can't add product. This Kamala, whatever, talking about building 3 million homes. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
She's going to give everybody 25,000. That should.
That's even
problem,
worse.
Right?
That'll crash the housing market.
Yeah.
That'll be.
Can you explain that a little bit? Yeah.
Well, first of all, her saying she's going to give 25 grand has only delayed everybody actually making a decision. Mm-hmm. Mortgage applications, even though we had a little spike in the last week, is still lower today than it was in 2008 during the greatest housing bust in the history of this country. Mm-hmm. So when she said, hey, we're going to give 25 grand away, anybody who was thinking about buying a house said, okay, I'll wait until you do the thing.
Right.
She should have done it. Okay. She's literally going to cause housing to become a disaster in this country. Because if Jared was interested in buying, he's going like, I'm going to wait till the first time buyer's credit. I can get it later. So I'll wait until February or March of next year.
Right. And also the builder might be like, well, I'm going to charge 25 grand more.
Dude, the builder is not going to charge 25 grand more. Dave, the builder is going to be like, okay, I can charge 75 grand more. Okay. Because the 25 will be applied to the purchase. I can get more. The guys, so it's going to immediately inflate the cost of housing across the country. Her idea that she's going to build 3 million homes when there's 4.2 million homes short. Well, I'm like, somebody should be asking them, well, who gets them? Who gets the home? Who's going to build the homes? How's anybody going to afford the home? Because the interest rates are still too high.
So talk about the interest rates a little bit. I guess we will. I guess this is all going to be connected to politics one way or another. I was going to try to work around politics, but to me,
you can't. But you can anymore.
Yeah.
They're all sitting at the same dinner table.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my house, my business, how I hire people. Who I let rent in my properties. Can I even get them to leave if they're a bad actor? We have 15,000 apartments. Most of it's in Florida. And 15,000 people, you're going to end up with people that don't pay their bills or act, do dumb stuff. And I got to get them off the property.
Here you can do that.
You can do it here. In 30 days, I can have you out. In 45 days, without going through a big eviction or legal process, I can have you out of the property. We don't want to evict people. Mm-hmm.
No, of course.
We accepted their lease. We want them as a resident. But I have to protect the rest of the people in the property. California, dude, if the temperature is a certain degrees in California and the judge said you're evicted, same thing in New York, that person can go to court that day and say it's too cold or it's raining today. This is true, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Or, hey, my baby's sick. So the eviction process then gets extended. So I could be 8-9 months trying to get somebody out, spending more in legal fees, while the whole time I didn't even get to collect the rents.
How about the squatter stuff? I mean,
the squatters.
You don't even have to be a renter.
Dude, how about the illegal immigrants? There's people in New York City. I know this. I know a guy that owns a bunch of slumlord stuff. We don't do that. We do high-end real estate, and he is turning basements into like dormitories where he's getting $200 a bed. And there's 40 people down there.
So what do you think they are doing? Well, if we were trying to really steel man the argument of the people that are running these cities, turning the Roosevelt Hotel into a migrant center, getting rid of, I lived, the last house that I had in LA was right off Ventura in the Valley. And one of the reasons that I left, I moved during the riots because my first house there was too close. The riots were going by my house. I was like, all right, I'll move up the hill. It's going to cost more, but I'm going to move up the hill. But then during COVID, I realized, boy, all these office buildings are empty. And I was like, I know whether it's tomorrow or 2 years or 4 years from now, they will be putting illegals in these things. And the illegals, when they need to steal something, are just going to walk up the hill. And that was one of my main calculations in leaving. So what do you think they're actually thinking when they're instituting all of this nonsense?
I think they're thinking voters, and I think they're thinking about a militia in the future that they could actually weaponize.
And that's dark.
That's dark, dude, because you're not going to get Americans to turn.
The voter thing is dark, but all right, let's go.
You're not going to get Americans to turn on Americans. But if you got enough 15 or 20 million people that came from Venezuela, or pick a country or a combination of countries, dude, they don't care about killing. They're not killing their own. So all you got to do is give them a weapon, make a new army, make a new military. We have 700 million guns in this country, okay? Like, we have more guns in this country than exists on the planet. So in America, how do you destabilize or, neutralize 700 million guns? You put them on prescription medication, which we're the most prescribed civilization on planet Earth. You make them obese. We have terrible food supply. So the guy can't get out of his bed because he's 400 pounds. And if he did get out of his bed, he can't unlock his safe because he's freaking drugged up by Big Pharma. Or the third thing is now he's got to fight this, no offense to the Venezuelans, I'm sure you're good people, but whatever group of people that came in here that now got to have a new job because they don't have a job.
Yeah.
They came here with no job, no place to live, no food, no water. What do you think they're going to do? And I also believe the old cats and dogs thing. Dude, I know people from different parts of the world where they're like, Grant, we have a ritual.
In Haiti, it's a thing.
It's a thing, dude. I've lived in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah.
Dude, there's voodoo down there, bro. They kill animals as a sacrifice. Some of them take a bit of the blood out of the animal and digest it in order to consume the spirits of the animal. So anybody that thinks 30 million cats and dogs are eaten every year on this planet. So anybody that says that's not happening somewhere, that's bullshit. It's always happened. And when you invite 20 million people here that don't have food, don't have water, don't have a place to live, don't have a job, I can't hire them. What does anybody think's going to happen? So why are they doing it? It can only be for voters and possibly a militia.
It's interesting you bring that up because I've mentioned on the show a couple times in the last week that there's one Harris Wall sign in my neighborhood that I walk by with my dog. And I try to be very friendly with my neighbors because I think it's important. Not only it's nice to know people, but if the shit ever hit the fan, your neighbor is less inclined to break into your house if he knows your kids. So I think it's in your own self-interest to just know people 100%. Around and take care of your house and all that. But I keep thinking, if I bump into this neighbor, if I'm just walking by the house with the sign and they walk out, it's like, yeah, I'll say hi. But I would think that they're completely insane. And it's that sort of, that's not based on skin color or anything else, but it's based on how our ideologies have so gone in different ways that you could live here in the freest place in the country, in the world probably, and still be trying to bring in that stuff.
Well, clearly your neighbor is very confused.
To say the least.
What are they doing living here?
I don't. Well, they're enjoying the hell out of it and they don't know why.
Or they're not completely committed. Most liberals that I've met are a little bit wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Like my boy Cuban,
Yeah. Oh, so
dude, that guy flip-flops. I'm like, bro, you ought to go work at IHOP or something. Like you look like you ought to be working waffles and flipping them back and forth because I know what you were saying 3 or 4 years ago.
Right. So what do you, all right. So we're going to show some of the B-roll of the tweet exchanges that you guys have been having because you're in it with Mark Cuban right now. That's what I was referencing up top. And everyone, I've fought with him on Twitter. Elon fights with him all the time. Something about him is extremely confusing to people because he sort of seems to make sense as a capitalist and what you see maybe on Shark Tank or what he was doing on Shark Tank. And then he's all about the DEI stuff. He's all about these weird economic policies and no one can sort of figure out what's really going on there. So what the hell happened between you guys? Basically?
Well, I was just trolling him a little bit, right? So I put something up and he's like, hey man, do you ever do any fact checking or do you ever do any kind of research? And I'm like, bro, this is what I do on Twitter. I basically find information that supports my bias and my prejudice and I post it on X.
It's refreshingly honest.
And the fact that you can't admit that that's what you do, okay, just means you're dishonest. And that's all right with me. But, I am not going to put up surveys or statistics that support your side. I'm putting up mine. And he's like, you've done no research. You don't know what you're talking about. You've done you know nothing. And I'm like, okay. Literally, he's emailing me back and forth. It's not DMs, right? And I'm like, well, that's fine, Mark. I mean, maybe I have no intelligence. I don't have a TV show. I'm not connected. I didn't have a startup that made $2 billion. But I live in America, dude.
But you did okay.
I live in America and I worked hard, and it just goes to show you don't have to be the smartest person. And you could still make it in this country. And I said, it's a shame that you and I are actually fighting about this when we should be working together.
Well, what do you make of that notion that people that get it, they clearly get it. The guy's created a lot of wealth, a lot of businesses, done successful things. Yeah. And then he's going on and on about DIE when he knows he would never have said, okay, 6 of my Mavericks players have to be white or Asian or something.
And he can't defend that either. Yeah. But he'll talk over you to try to sell the story. That's what he was doing on CNBC this morning. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he's a consummate salesperson. Maybe he's like, I'm going to sell this. Number 2, I said, look, I mean, I understand that Trump, you clearly you have a problem with him. And I know guys at that level, the egos get enormous and people want to be right. And I think he got dissed the same way Scaramucci did. Mm-hmm. And I think they're both hurt.
Yeah, and Scaramucci was really in it with Trump.
Yeah. And these guys flip and they're going to go to the other side. And, dude, it's weird, man. I'm telling you, it's like, because what he's telling people on Shark Tank or did for 13 years, and now he doesn't have that show. So I think he just wanted to stay relevant. Mm-hmm. $5 billion doesn't buy you importance or relevance. And people that have been relevant want to stay relevant. And so I think I thought he was just trolling Twitter in the beginning. I said, he's just trolling. This can't be true. He's just fucking with people. And then I'm like, oh no, he's simping. He is a damn pimp for Kamala Harris. And then I'm like, maybe he's just trying to get a job. And yesterday he came out and said he wants the SEC job.
God, that's crazy. It's just
But he told me he doesn't want a job. He's like, no, man, I got a good deal. This is what I'm doing. It cost plus is bigger than that. But I'm like, yeah, but bro, like you're doing 5 and 6 interviews a day telling me I'm wrong to vote for Trump when the truth is the country was better off under Trump. Regardless of what Trump says, we didn't have any wars, as you know. Yep. Inflation was under 2%. Interest rates were 2%. Homes were freaking, you could sell your home or you could buy a home. Right now, you can't sell your house. Yep. You can't buy a house. You can't refinance a house. All the equity, there's about $15 trillion worth of equity in this country that's frozen in people's homes.
And so the main reason for that is interest rates, do you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because basically people just can't borrow right now. It just doesn't make sense.
America, the most competitive, supposedly greatest, freest country in the world, has some of the highest interest rates of industrialized nations. So we're at 5.5%. Switzerland's at 1.25. Japan's at 1/4, and we're sitting at 5.5. We should not be at 5.5. We need to get to 4% again. Like if I was buying a home for your audience, I would not buy a home right now. I would wait for that $25,000 by the way. But that won't happen anyway.
Yeah. Pretty sure you're gonna need a little more than that for your home.
Yeah. But I would wait until interest rates breach 4% again. If I'm trying to buy something, I would do it on a lease option, not buy it today, have an option to purchase in the future. And if I'm trying to sell, I'm definitely not trying to sell unless you're going to offer some kind of special financial, creative finance.
So if you were the Fed or you were the Dems right now, to me, this seems like the easiest one. I am not an economic wizard, but I've done well with houses because I was basically able to buy with low interest rates. And to me, when you have a low interest rate, I like paying my mortgage. I'm like, I'm paying something that's going to grow and then I'm going to roll that into something else. Like there is value in it. And then you understand, the bank's going to make a little money off me, but not at 7.5%. So what are they doing wrong? That it seems like such an easy win to lower interest rates or make it or create the conditions so that people could borrow cheaper.
Yeah, I think they're trying to force 300 to 600 bank failures. I think they want to consolidate banks in this country. We have a lot of banks here.
So too big to fail to make them all bigger. Yeah, exactly. The remainder's bigger.
So basically. We have 5,000, somewhere between 4,700 and 5,500 banks in this country. Canada's got 18 or something. So I think they want to consolidate the banks, make the big bigger. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, those become the winners. The BlackRock gets to consume a Blackstone. Like the big have to eat big. They can't eat tiny little bites. So, and I that's what I think. I think that old saying about you'll own nothing and be happy about it, I think that that's actually in play. And I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm a practical common sense.
No, we play that clip all the time from a WEF. I mean, it's legit. So basically, in essence, they would want to keep virtually everybody that does not own a home now out of home ownership, because that really is the key to unlocking the rest of your wealth. In essence.
Yeah. And so, how do you do that? You keep interest rates really high. But the problem in this country is 70% of all the loans across all housing in this country is below 4%. 31% of all the homes are paid for in cash. So you have, unlike other countries, you have all this wealth sitting. Jared right here has a 2.7% loan, and it doesn't expire for 27 years. So he has no impetus, no stimulus. His loan is probably worth more than the house is. It's probably got more profit because of the loan package than the actual house. So until interest rates breach 4%, this is what Kamala doesn't understand. She either doesn't understand it, she could be financially illiterate. She has an economics degree, but I know
it's a little of everything.
Or she believes her voters are, which is worse.
Well, that one for sure.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
And so somebody needs to sit down with her and say, look, when rates breach 4%, you will have so much home activity in this country. Number one, prices will come down more than $25,000. You will have prices drop in order for him to move to the next house. He wants to go to a $6 million house next from his $3 million house. He can't make that move right now because his rate's going to go from 2.7 to 7.
Yep.
And so his interest rate on the same money would be, his payment would be triple. And that's what's happened in this country. Interest rates tripled. Rents are going to continue to explode if somebody doesn't handle this. Unaffordable housing is over. There's no such thing as it. It will never happen again in our lifetime. You will never see affordable housing. And the government just needs to tell people the truth. The solution is to take all the 4 million houses that were short. We don't actually have a housing shortage. We have a desirable housing shortage.
Right.
That's why they're tearing down all these $3 million houses around here.
Yeah.
Because they want a new house. There are 45 million apartments in America with about a 10% vacancy. That would be if I was the president, okay, or if I was the head of the housing authority, I would give an incentive to apartment owners and say, rent that unit, rent your vacancy, make a deal. It'll be tax revenue zero to you. And we could give 4.2 million people housing before the end of the month and solve the problem without the tax revenues being affected or your taxes being affected.
But in essence, they don't want to solve the problem for the reasons that you just laid out there.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I don't know why they don't want to solve problems. I mean, maybe they have so many problems in the government that they can't solve problems. I just know every time they touch anything, they fuck it all up. So
I want to bring up another one that from a clip we played on the show this morning. Kamala has been big on the idea of that the grocery stores are price gouging.
Yeah.
And she'd like to put some controls in to explain that. I keep trying to use a very simple analogy with people that it has nothing to do with the evil corporations deciding suddenly because Democrats are in power, they want to raise prices. But this is just what runs through the economy from the chicken feed all the way to the gas to get the eggs to the store.
Yeah.
Again, well, I guess I know your answer, but it's like, what do you think they're thinking?
She should be talking about MasterCard and Visa, not the grocery store, because the profit margin at MasterCard is like 51%. I think Visa's like sitting at like 48 or something. It's crazy, man. We have the highest interest rates at the highest level of interest in the history of plastic. Those two guys are monopolies. American Express is a distant third. That's a much bigger issue for me that people are depending upon, credit cards. Mm-hmm. And the second thing about the food supply, the food is she needs to be concerned about the food supply, not the food prices. Mm-hmm. Because if people quit buying bacon, the price of bacon will go down. Inflation is not caused. It could be caused by a supply chain, right? But if I don't want the product and nobody buys the product, the price will come down.
Does it strike you as just kind of like the simplest, most idiotic messaging? That's what it seems like to me. Like, oh, yes, it's the evil corporations that want to tack on the dollar.
That's the game, bro. She believes her audience is ignorant.
Yeah.
She can't be that stupid because that's not what's happening, okay? The Ralphs and the Publix are not getting together to control the pricing. It's like you said, I imported the chickens from someplace. We were in Dubai. 90% of their food supply is imported. Okay. 90% of it has none of the ingredients that we have. Okay. The foods were better. They were fresher. I never felt, bloated or so. And you go to France, see the same thing. So, I don't think anybody's behind the scenes trying to control pricing. Banks control pricing, interest rates, mortgage applications. The SEC controls who can actually invest in new projects with accredited and non-accredited. I mean, if she really wanted to talk about some of those issues, the SEC is probably the most racist organization in America. Because if you don't make 200 grand, all your guys that don't make 200 grand cannot invest in my projects. Only until you breach.
Oh, to be an accredited investor.
To be accredited.
Yeah.
So the non-accredited, 98% of America is non-accredited. They don't qualify to look at other.
What's even the thinking behind that? I mean, do you think that's actually a rate? Was it created as a racist notion originally?
To protect.
It's supposedly to protect
the people that actually need the investment.
Right.
It's not. It's to protect Wall Street.
Right.
The SEC was put in place by Wall Street. So Merrill Lynch wants that. Merrill Lynch has got $7 trillion under management. Fidelity, $7 trillion. Vanguard, $11 trillion. Like, this protected a handful. That's why I'm telling you, I think the rates are to squash and make our banking system smaller and bigger.
How much of this do you just blame on the education system that really no one knows this? I get emails all the time because we don't do a ton on this type of, this granular economic stuff. Yeah. But I get tons of emails from people being like, I did not learn anything about credit cards or interest rates or anything in high school or even in college. And then they get out into the real world and they have no freaking clue what to do.
Yeah. Well, the way me and Cuban started talking is I sent a letter to Kamala and to Trump and said, look, America needs a wealth education, not financial literacy. They need wealth education because every person in America should be rich.
Well, how do you differentiate those two things?
Well, financial literacy is, okay, don't spend more money than you earn. Wealth education is things that people that I've learned. I didn't want to say people like me, but that you learn as you're creating wealth.
Yeah.
Right. Once you start creating wealth, you're like, oh shit, there's this tax hack. I don't have to pay taxes on the sale of this piece of property. So I can move this $3 million gain. First of all, I didn't buy a house. I went and bought 16 units rather than one house that made $3 million. And I had income. That's a wealth hack, right? That's not financial literacy. We're going beyond that.
Right.
And financial literacy is not the problem in this country. In this country, financial indoctrination is the issue. We've been indoctrinated to benefit banks, save your money. Okay, all the money you've ever made, none of it came from saving. It came because you made a move. You actually used money. And so buying a house is a terrible investment for the most part. It's just a place to live. Provides no income, doesn't give you the great tax breaks.
See, interesting, because just from my far more amateur one, that to me is one of the things that I've really done right in this in 3 houses.
Yeah, but how many houses have you bought?
This is my third house.
Good. Are you living in them?
Yeah.
Oh, you're living and then flipping them.
Living them, flipping them. And each one I intended to stay in, but then circumstances changed. 2 of them were in Cali and I had to get the hell out and then came here.
But imagine
working them as well.
Imagine while you were in Cali, what neighborhood did you live in?
My first house was in Sherman Oaks. Second one was in Encino.
Okay. If you'd have bought apartments in Sherman Oaks, you wouldn't have just made that one score on that house. You'd have been paid. You'd have had total tax write-offs, no exclusion on the tax write-offs. Mm-hmm. Like on interest on a home loan, you can write off up to the first $750 of debt. So at 7%, you can write off maybe $50,000 a year. I have $2 billion worth of debt on my apartments. The interest on that will be what? $10 million a year. I write it all off. If I had $10 billion, it'd be $100 million. Like I write it off and I get to depreciate it in the first year, not 27 years like your house. So there's all these wealth hacks, these things that Mark Cuban knows or Warren Buffett knows that we should be teaching all Americans at a very young age of how to invest their money, how to use money, how to put it to work. Like how do you get to be a bank rather than leave your money at a bank? Is a 401k or an IRA really good for people? Do you have one?
I do.
Yeah. Do you regret it? You like it? You wonder about it?
It's only in the last couple of years that I've thrown some stuff in there. Yeah. So I'm 48 now. I didn't really have any money till I was like 42 or something. So my stuff is sort of.
Yeah. So do you think taxes will be higher in the future?
I mean, assuming Democrats control this freaking thing
right now, she would hammer. If she gets her way, she'll kill your 401k. So, like, I would get that. If you believe she wins, I would get that money out of your 401k, pay your penalty right now, or move it self-directed. You're probably self-directed.
I should know the
You
answer
can actually
to that.
self-direct that into real estate. You could actually move that retirement account, get away from Merrill.
I'm going to have to make a call right after this.
No penalty, zero penalty.
Yeah.
Okay. It costs you $250. What's sitting over there?
Self-direct it, meaning you would
self-direct it into a real estate deal.
Interesting.
So that when you go to retire, the IRS forces you. Look, the 401k IRA is the biggest scam perpetuated by our banks on the American public.
It forces you to...
It forces, first of all, they make you a prisoner for 30
because
30
you're
years.
Just stuck in that. Yeah,
you can't get out.
Yeah.
You don't really know what it's invested in. Most of it is funding companies that you would have nothing to do with. Okay, they're funding big pharma. They're funding military campaigns, the DIE or DEI stuff. They're funding all the woke shit.
Should be DIE, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're funding all the woke stuff that you hate, unless you know exactly what that money's in. You could pull that money out, self-direct it into a real estate transaction that paid you income every month. Because when you go to retire, there's a code. I forget what the code is, but the IRS will force you at 65 years old, 65 or 66. To start withdrawing 4%.
You basically have to.
You have to.
Yeah.
Whether you need the money or not, you must withdraw. At that point, it could be 40% taxes, 60%, like is Canada, 64.5% on all capital gains, which you would be in that bandwidth. So, you have a partner on your 401k and you don't know what you're invested in. You don't know what that partner is going to take. They could take 2/3 of your profits. And they forced the 4% because somebody came up with the idea, look, 4%, 25 years to live, it'll be zero. You have nothing to pass on to your kids. If that was in a piece of real estate, like we invest in, okay, like I make real estate my retirement account. At 65, when I'm done, okay, that thing kicks me off 5 or 6% a year, but I never touch the capital.
Right.
I never touch the real estate. So when I die, I'm living off the 4 or 5%. I'm paying taxes on that income. But when I don't need it anymore, I still have the real estate. I never touch the original capital amount.
Let's talk. Well, I'm going to literally make a call after this. So
call me.
I'll let you, and then I'll call them, and then I'll call you. Talk about this unrealized gains tax that they're trying to push through, because this is to me like we've talked about some bananas stuff that they're doing and rates and things like that. But to me, this is like if you truly wanted to keep people in servitude, you wanted to destroy human ingenuity, the ability to invest, the ability to do any of the things that you've laid out here. Unrealized gains, they are not real.
Yeah,
and you're going to tax them.
It's crazy, dude. I mean, even Cuban says that it would crash the stock market. It would stop all activity. This is the first thing that would happen. Okay. If you told me tomorrow, hey, Grant, we're going to start, I mean, look, all of this can be hacked and worked around, right? Like the $50,000 business credit. I'll get a bunch of those. I could probably get 50 of those in the first year. I'll set up 50 different businesses, make them all profitable, and get $2.5 million from the IRS. The money won't even go to the right people, dude.
Right.
Like on the unrealized gains, all I'm going to do is set up a bunch of separate independent companies, break up my corporations, just like we did during COVID. Okay. So I'm not going to, when they started saying, hey, you're going to have a $14,000 fine if you have more than 100 people, good. I'll only have 99 people. Like there's always a workaround with the government. So it's just bullshit. Like they'd never pass it. It would shock Wall Street. Wall Street would be shocked. Activity will stop. Nobody will trade their assets anymore. If capital gains go up, people will quit selling their products and services or quit trading their assets. So fewer assets are traded. They become more expensive. The Democrats, every time they get involved, all they do is inflate the prices of the assets. When they're trying to protect people, they actually prevent people from...
Because in essence, they calcify the system, and then that just sort of protects the people that...
Okay, I'm not going to sell my house in Golden Beach now, ever. Now there's fewer homes to sell. So they become more valuable. Anything for sale, can command whatever price it wants.
What's your basic position on taxes? In my first book, I wrote just a couple pages. Like simple flat tax to me makes sense, and maybe you can have some exclusions for like under 50 grand, and maybe just to throw the Dems a bone, you could do a little progressive thing if you're making over 5 million a year or something. I don't think it's morally right. Just
at a compromise,
just throwing a bone. Not that they ever take that bone and say it's enough, but what's your general policy on taxes?
I mean, look, man, if there were zero, this country would rock.
Yeah.
And, look, if you give me my tax money back, I'm going to spend it. I'm going to spend it. I'm going to invest it. So like, I don't pay federal taxes. My federal tax bill for the last 20 years, I paid maybe 2 years out of 20. So I do everything I can not to pay federal. I don't mind paying local taxes, property taxes. I'm fine. Mm-hmm. I go buy something, tax me. I go buy a car, tax me. That's fine. But there's so many taxes in this country right now. It's unbelievable. I earn income.
Yep.
Let's say I earn $1 million. They want, what do they want? 40% of that?
30%.
Yeah. So 400 grand went to the federal government. If you live in New York City, they took another 100. Now I have 500,000 left. I go spend the 500, they tax it. The 500 went to you. I went and spent it at the Rubin Associates company. You had to pay taxes on the 500. So I paid taxes on my million. You paid taxes on the 500. Yep. You gave 300 grand to the guy down the street. He had to pay taxes on it. Dude, everybody's being taxed. Like, this money's been taxed so many times. We should get this thing back to zero.
So you would have no federal... You would have no federal income tax.
I mean, I know that's impossible to say. People can be like, that's ridiculous. Remember when the Boston tea thing happened? When was that? What,
1771?
That was over 1%.
Yeah.
1%, you know?
Right.
We said, no, ain't going to happen. Now they're like, hey, we're going to raise taxes. Okay, how much? Our corporate taxes are too high. They should be 15%. We should have the lowest corporate taxes in the world. We should have the lowest interest rates in the world. We should have the best education, the best health, the best roads. If we don't do that, somebody else is going to do it. That's what they're doing in the UAE right now.
And the UAE
there's no taxes there.
Yeah, I think people have a hard time understanding how the UAE has evolved sort of economically and socially, actually. Over
more millionaires are moving to the UAE right now than any place on the planet. They're moving there to say, okay, from all religions, by the way. You don't have to be a Muslim to live there. Okay. You don't have to wear a gown to live there or whatever it's called. They want to do business there. They're pro-business. They don't want to tax your dollars. They want your dollars. They want your energy. They want you to be over there. And
what does it feel like doing business there in that environment compared to here?
How can we do business? Everything's about how can we do business?
Yeah. So a certain set of people, not most of my audience know, but a certain set of people here, wait a minute. This guy's worth all this hundreds of millions of dollars and he's basically paid zero federal income tax.
Yeah, that's right.
18 out of 20 years. Yeah. So when they say the rich aren't paying their fair share, it actually does make sense.
Yeah. No.
I'm not making the argument. I'm just saying.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
What can I tell you? Like, you want to pay them, you pay them. I'm not sending this money. Yeah. Your family's not getting this money. Right. Your family's not getting this money. I am not depriving your family of something. Ask the people here locally how they feel about the taxes I pay here in Florida. Okay. Whatever I paid in property taxes is more than most people will ever pay in their lifetime, earn in their lifetime. So I want my money to stay in my local environment. That's my argument. If I was running for president, I'd run on that. We're going to teach every person in this country, even if we have taxes, I'm going to teach you how to pay zero taxes legally without going to jail, and how you'll have more money for your local community so the locals can take care of their community. I don't need to take care of Boston.
So give me like the basics on that. So when someone hears that, okay, wait a minute, he's made all this money, he's got all these businesses, somehow he's paying zero federal taxes.
Yeah, I'm not doing business in D.C. Like I don't go to them for money. I don't get loans. The federal government's not involved in my business. I have no federal government contracts. Okay, well, who's going to pay for the military? Not me. I don't want to pay for them. Nobody's bombing our country. Right? We should take a hiatus on wars, man. Take 10 or 12 years and say, fuck it, we ain't helping anybody else except us. I like this American first idea for some period of time until we're back to being a number one in everything. And we should be a number one in everything. So my federal taxes do not make this country better.
But just conceptually, when someone hears that and they go, wait a minute, how does he pay zero taxes? Can you just give me like a little bit of like the rough through line on how that actually works?
Well, what I do is I invest
to legally do it.
I invest in properties.
Right.
So I take my money, I take garbage fiat, I convert it to something real like this, but this on steroids. Because I don't really want to pay for this. Your guy's back there working right now. You got to pay him. I don't want to pay for him.
I don't pay any of these guys.
Probably not, right? These guys out of love for you, right? Yeah. But what I want to do is I want to own property that pays me income, and that income from the property pays the property taxes, pays the expenses, the maintenance, the people, the problems, the taxes, whatever. It pays for everything, including the debt. And so when I buy that big piece of property, the tax code, we just bought $500 million worth of stuff here. Those properties are going to come probably this year with somewhere between $200 and $250 million worth of tax breaks. Depreciation. It's legitimate too, because those properties do depreciate. Yeah. So there's no, it's not that I'm not paying taxes. I'm not paying them today. They're going to be deferred into the future, but I never sell my assets. So I'm never actually going to pay taxes.
So you ain't worried about it anytime soon.
But I'm not funding the craziness going on in the world.
Right. Where do you see sort of greener pastures right now?
And anybody can do that last hack, by the way. Anybody. You don't have to buy $500 million. You can go buy 16 units tomorrow and get the same tax breaks I get.
Where do you see kind of greener pastures? If people are trying to figure out where to buy something, maybe that they're going to rent, or some of the things you're doing.
Florida, anywhere in Florida, the Panhandle is going to be a boom. Yeah. Miami and Fort Lauderdale will be winners because there's nothing here.
What do you mean there's nothing here?
There's a bunch of old homes here. You know, if you shop this market and there's so many old homes, it's just they're all going to get torn down, and there's going to be a megaplex. There's going to be
it's unbelievable when I see some of the OGs that are here, even in the neighborhood that I'm in, people that bought their houses for like $100,000, something like that now are walking with all this cash, and then who knows what they do with it. But it's amazing. It shows you why capitalism works.
Yeah, and outsiders make markets, so insiders don't make markets. Outsiders come in, like Ken Griffin comes in here with his $58 billion.
Yeah. Did he just buy like the most expensive house in Miami?
He's going to keep doing it, dude. He's bought so much stuff around here. And that story, you can tell that story 50 or 60 times now. Texas is going to be great. Dallas will be a super city. Austin will be one of the great boom cities of the next 30 years. It's going to take a second. Some of these cities are very soft right now. Houston has no housing stock there. They haven't built anything in the last 2 years. That'll be a boom here over 26 and 27. Nashville will be great. The Carolinas is going to be awesome. Parts of Georgia, not all of it, but Atlanta, Savannah will be a great city. Myrtle Beach, all that.
There's a theme with all these places.
Yeah, they're warm.
And they're also all red.
They're red
electorally. Yeah. Is there any?
And the more I actually will benefit more if Kamala gets in office.
Right. It's a perverse version of what you just said in a sense.
Yeah. But I don't want that. But I would benefit because they're going to continue the insanity.
Yeah.
And it'll force more and more people down that have been tempted. People have been tempted by Miami for the last 30 or 40 years because of the winters. So they'd come down here, snowbirds, they'd come down here and visit. Oh my God, I like it. And then they go back home. Now, a lot of them are starting to stick.
They're staying. You know how many Canadians are now staying? Well, they want to get the hell out of Canada for a million reasons, but I'm seeing a ton of that down here. The snowbirds just staying all together.
Yeah. That's what I always thought, but no, they're going to go all the way.
A lot of people are Googling who's Mike right now. We're not talking about Michael Jordan, different Mike.
He just sold his house in Chicago.
He finally, that's an interesting one.
He wanted $27 million and he got 14.
Didn't he originally want like $50 million or something?
Maybe,
I think I watched that video on YouTube. Michael Jordan, he probably was at one time the coolest house in America. With all of that 90s Jordan stuff and couldn't $15 million. And
it's been for sale for like, I don't know, a dozen years or something.
And but what does that say about the state of these cities? That Michael Jordan's house, massive estate, it had memorabilia, basketball court, the whole thing. $50 million in the scheme of things is nothing for a super fan of Michael Jordan to just be like, I'll steal that thing, and he could not get rid of it.
Yeah, well,
to me that's emblematic.
He overbuilt. Yeah, he built in the wrong place. At that time, it was the right place, but he didn't look to the future, right? So with real estate, you can't just look today. You got to be like, okay, well, where's the migration going? And there's got to be barriers. California's got big barriers, New York City, but as long as the people start sucking out, when they migrate out, like Arizona's been a freaking unbelievable people have made so much money in Arizona because California went over there out of their $3 million house, saw a $400,000 house and said, I'll buy 2 of these.
Yeah.
And so that's going to continue to happen around the country.
So as we watch all this happen, are you hopeful? I mean, it sounds like you're kind of hopeful despite the smile on your face, you're doing stuff, obviously.
But look, I always make money with Democrats. Like I was a Democrat the first half of my life. So I was raised by a Democrat family.
Most people.
Single mom raised me. We had 5 kids and on a budget, didn't have any money, no connections. And you wanted to be a Democrat because they were more like us.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the first half of my lifetime, right? But something changed, man. I don't even recognize this. And by the way, I don't really recognize the Republican Party either, which I'm kind of glad about.
Which you're happy about, right?
I'm very happy about it. I don't think it's a Republican Party. I think it's the party of change and aggressive change without pushing agendas on me.
Do you think that is largely because of Trump's business experience and that he had to fight the system to do all these things in New York City, even to build the ice skating rink in Central Park, and he had to fight the machine constantly. So then that's sort of what he's done now politically.
Yeah, I think he's just a unique individual that is blessed with some kind of perception that doesn't really match his orator skills, and I think he has some magic internally in his head. Like the guy's got a good predictive. Like if you look at the stuff he said,
his track record's pretty damn good.
Bro, it's like bro, you reading tarot cards, like you into some kind of like, what do you know? Because he says the craziest shit that ends up becoming, dang, that happened. And look, I don't really like. I made a lot of money under Barack. The Bushes weren't. I wasn't proud of the Bushes. I wasn't proud of all those wars. And when Obama got in, it looked to me like he kept all the same people, and there was just more wars.
Yeah.
And when Trump got in, I'm like, oh, the war stopped.
No wars.
I like that. And everybody was worried about him going nuclear. So. Did I make as much money with Trump? I don't think it mattered any, And then Joe, clearly he hadn't been there. I think he said yesterday she's been running everything.
Yeah, he delegated.
So what's the silver lining, man? We're in America, dude. This is a great place. I mean, it's hard to ruin this place.
This is going to sound a little corny, but what would you say is the best part of having money and the worst part of having money?
The best part of having money?
Like real money.
Yeah. Well, what do you consider real money?
Whatever you got, I consider real money. Like you can basically do whatever you want.
Yeah, right?
You get it. You get
that's
on,
it, man.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, I to do whatever you want to give a middle finger to whoever you want to say no, I'm not doing that. To say to a customer, here's your money back. I don't want to do business with you anymore. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're not happy. Great. Here's your money.
Do you remember the moment that clicked for you? Because it's not a number that you reach to, right? It's a psychological state more than anything.
Well,
there may be a vague number, sort of.
Yeah, it's interesting because me and my wife always talked about when are we going to make it? When are we going to make it? And people around us would laugh and say, "Dude, you guys we're on your plane."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Yeah, but I hadn't made it yet."
Right.
Because I knew. Like, I think everybody's got their own little temperature, and I don't know that I'm quite there yet. I'm getting close to where I'm like, you know what? Bro, I'm good now. But,
But what would that be? What would be the difference in your life?
What would be the difference? Well, I'd have a yacht. I would definitely have a yacht.
You could probably have a yacht.
No. It's
not. What are you talking about? Like one of these like $100 million yachts? Like,
yeah.
Oh
yeah, at least that.
Yeah.
Like big.
Yeah. Guys, can we start a GoFundMe? What do you think? What do we think? Yeah, we'll see what we can do for you.
Yeah, let's start a GoFundMe account for me. Grant Cardone's yacht.com. You're welcome to come for one weekend. But
that's interesting though. There's still something.
Oh yeah,
there's
mega
a
money.
Physical thing.
Mega money. Like I would love to have a super PAC.
Yeah.
Right. I would love to have a super PAC. I'd love to start moving money in the direction of campaigns rather than just contributing to this and that. I never feel like I'm making a difference like that. I want to make a difference. And that's the purpose of money. Like, it's not about just buying your groceries and paying for your house note and your car and I don't spend a lot of money on stuff. My wife spent, she buys nice stuff. I buy whatever blue jeans are on sale. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
And
Mitt Romney bought his shirts at Costco.
Yeah, he's a terrible example. I don't want to be compared to him because he's a bitch.
Well, he just went the wrong way. It's sort of the Cuban thing. It's a very similar.
It's a butthurt, dude.
Yeah.
He was butthurt.
And just.
Jed was butthurt.
Yeah.
They were embarrassed by this freaking guy that came from the streets. I mean, Donald Trump was collecting rents when he was 14 and 15 years old. Knocking on doors. Hey, you're late. Yeah. You know how that makes you strong, man.
Right.
He's a street guy.
I also love how they constantly try to put Trump down for getting some money from his dad, which to me, it's like, I hope I'm going to give some money to my kids that they will then do something great with. Like, that's the hope. Yeah. They may screw it up, and most of them do.
He did screw it up. Most second generation money, probably 90% of it blows.
Yeah.
What the dad gave. I don't know what he gave him. You know what the number was?
Well, they always say it's 100, but,
I've heard 10, 100. I even heard 400 recently.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is.
Either way, it doesn't guarantee success. That's 100%. Yeah.
Like it could be like I got all mine from zero, so I know how to do it. I know how to do it a second time. I went on a TV show called Undercover Billionaire. They took all my money away. They took my name away. They took my credit cards away, and I built a $5 million business in 90 days. Mark Cuban couldn't do that, by the way. Guarantee you Mark couldn't do it.
Not if he's
Put that out there. Mark Cuban, I dare you to try that. You won't do it. Okay. You ain't got the freaking rock star anymore.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't even take the challenge. But I built a $5.5 million business during COVID without using my name, a credit card, or even a penny. I never spent a penny of the money. And I know I could do that again. Now, can my kids do that? I don't know. But inheriting money is one of the ways to create wealth. It is a wealth hack. Getting married is the second one. By the way, you can marry more money in a day than you can make in a lifetime.
Right.
Starting a business is the third one. Investing is the fourth one. And the fifth one's get lucky. It's the hardest of the bunch.
That's the trick.
To win the lottery ticket.
Yeah. Right.
And it can't be duplicated.
What are some of the things that you try to do generationally now? I've got 2-year-olds. We're trying to figure out all the plans around all of that. They were like, "What do you want to do about college?" And I was like, "I'm not doing college fund. I 100%. See there's virtually no chance they're going to end up in college. My hope is we'll raise them right.
That's right.
And then when they're now out there, I will hopefully be able to help them accomplish their dreams if their heads are on correct.
Yeah.
But the idea that I'm putting this away to go to college, like
it's crazy,
so they can become Hamas members. It's like,
it's insane.
Yeah.
I would never say, I went to college. You went to college.
I went to college. Yeah.
I would never go back to college.
We're of a certain age. It was, you just did it.
My kid asked me, they're both homeschooled.
Yep.
We took them out of the school system.
We're probably going to do that.
That was no brainer, dude.
Yep.
Like, it's easy, way easier than
you were in LA at the time.
No, we were here.
You were here, right?
Yeah, we were here. We took them to Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
What was it? Miami Country Day. Great school.
Yeah.
Took them out of the system. They got better immediately. They never were bad, but they got relief.
Mm-hmm.
We homeschool them. It's not an issue. It's cheaper than sending them to that school, by the way. So anybody that thinks homeschooling is more expensive, it's not.
And it's getting cheaper because more people are doing it. Of course,
and technology is going to make it. Yeah, technology is going to just. My 15-year-old is already finished. She finishes senior this year at 15 years old.
And what's she going to do?
Well, she's like, "Hey, you think I should go to college?" I said, "It'd be the dumbest thing you ever did in your life." I mean, if you want to learn how to use drugs, if you want to become an alcoholic, if you want to get convinced to, have a sex change, go to college.
Right.
If you want to, you want to get rich, come work with me in my business. She comes to work with me every day. She makes 60 to 100 phone calls a day. Has been doing that for a couple of years now. And the same with the other one. She wants to be an actress, but we don't give them money. This is what I would tell you. Never give them an allowance. Make investments for them. Don't give them money. And you give them an investment because they did something. We have a contract with them. We've had contracts with them since they were 6. And the contract says you have to do X, Y, Z, whatever. There's a list of things you have to do. They sign the contract. For that, they get we start them at $36,000 a year, basically child slave labor. And the $36,000 went into a real estate deal. The real estate deal pays them every month, and that's the only money they can use every month. And so they can spend whatever that today. Now they both have, I don't know, $300,000 invested already.
Wow.
It'll be $1 million by the time they're 20. And so when they're 20, they still won't have access to the investment. They'll never touch it.
Yeah.
They can only spend the cash flow.
When do they get access? Even though I get it, you don't want them to have access, or certainly wouldn't want them to touch.
Yeah. When I'm certain about all the.
When all the things have been checked off, they found the right partner.
Well, yeah, because I'm not,
right.
When I'm ready. So I control the asset, but I'm not paying them money. First of all, it's a tax deduction.
Yeah.
Okay. The income they get is tax-free for the first 4 or 5 years. So when they need a toy, which I can't write off, these are the wealth hacks, right? I can't write off toys. They can buy their own toy. They don't pay taxes.
Right.
So, then they get to make decisions about money and how to earn it and what to do with it. And, they'll definitely be required to sign prenups or I won't go to the wedding.
Right. What's been your biggest blunder? Doing this?
Well, the biggest blunder in my life was, I turned to drugs when I was 15 years old, and I ended up being I had a terrible drug habit for 10 years. That was the first worst thing that I ever did. It cost me 10 years of my life. Very ashamed of it. Would never do it again. Don't promote drugs to anyone. No, nobody starts using drugs and thinks they're going to become a drug addict. Every drug addict started thinking I'm just having fun, and nobody escapes the drugs. Diddy's in jail right now. I guarantee he's dying right now. He doesn't even know what he's going through because he's going through withdrawals. Second biggest mistake was going to college. Definitely was a massive mistake.
Where'd you go?
I went to McNeese State University. Mm-hmm. Got a degree in accounting. Third mistake that I made was staying in the same town that I grew up in too long. And then the fourth mistake was the first business I started. I still have it today, but I took a business that I got good at. And because I got good at it and because it was paying me a little money, I kept doing it. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, it was a terrible business.
So you think you just stuck with it too long as opposed to just going elsewhere?
Yeah, exactly. I stuck with it 20 years. And I made a lot of money, but it was a terrible business. I didn't know I was in a terrible business because I didn't do the research to figure out what are good businesses. Like I would do it all different today if I was doing it again.
Yeah. That's tough.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.